All right, so another quick Sunday check-in. So this is just like, a raw reflection of the week. And this week was very crazy. So I think it's going to give us a couple of random and interesting things to talk about. So let's do a quick recap. So my name is Santiago. I'm a global managing partner at 500 Global. Been doing this for over a decade. And 2 weeks ago, we started a program called Silicon Valley Takeover, where we are bringing more than 40 founders from Latin America and some from Georgia and a couple from Canada to San Francisco to a 3-week immersion experience that has a lot of different things. So we're co-living, we're split amongst 2 different houses. One is the residency, the Odyssey residency, and then like the rest of the crew are at the Monroe Hotel, which are both great locations and they're 2 blocks away. So we've been just like all packed together, enjoying San Francisco, doing fireside chats. If you want to see week 1, we have a previous video from last week. So let's do a quick recap of this week. So on Monday, we had a fireside chat with Bismarck Lepe, who's an early Google employee, a great founder. He has done 2 companies that he sold. He's doing another one. And before that, he did and worked at so many startups that it's just someone with a lot of experience. Then after that, we did a very packed session with the CTO of Replit, with Luis. He's from Mexico, so it's interesting to see someone leading such an important tech team who happens to be a Mexican, and that was super great. Then on Tuesday, we had a fireside chat with Sheil Monot, who used to run our fintech fund at 500. Then he started Better Tomorrow Ventures. Before that, he did a bunch of companies, and he's just very interesting, and it was a joy to just be able to chat with him, pick his brain, get some feedback and tips from him. Then on Wednesday, we had David Wickley, who's just also a beautiful, beautiful person, full of energy and a great entrepreneur and a great thinker in just general. We had a very exciting chat with him. After that, we had a Cloud Code meetup for Latinos in the Frontier Tower. And that was crazy. We had over 200 people. It was jam-packed. I got to be a speaker, the last speaker of the day, and I think I did a really good job. I almost never feel like that with my public speaking, but this time I really feel like I nailed it, and that was a really nice feeling. Then on Thursday, we had Christine Tsai, our CEO and founder, come to the house and also do a fireside chat. That was also super fun and interesting. And then in the afternoon, we had Fabi from Monashis do a fireside chat with Regina. Sadly, I had to go out of that session in the middle of it because I had to go to a dinner. I was invited to a dinner with First Round Capital, and they do these dinners with some of their C-level executives of companies in their portfolio and some founders and some experts from different industries, just to have like a 2-hour chat about a specific topic. In this case, it was about AI, not only being used by developer teams, but from everyone else in the company, from like operations and other parts. Those chats are off the record, so like it was very interesting to have a deep conversation with amazing people, and also to see another fund execute like so well these community events that generate a lot of value for their portfolio companies, and it was just a joy to be at their office and be there. Then on Friday, the people went to Encode and got to talk with the CTO and founder of Encode, which is a great company also. I was not part of that experience in this occasion because I had to attend a board meeting, but the rest of the crew went over there. And then I was able to go and spend some time with Jose Menendez, a good friend who is now, he was at Grok, now he's at NVIDIA. And I got to just spend some one-on-one time, which was great. After that, we actually saw the new Mere Mortals ballet in San Francisco, which is very interesting because it's obviously about technology and AI, and it really mixes like traditional classical music with more electronic. So that was super interesting. And then on Saturday, we got to do Release Before Ready also at Frontier Tower. This is an event that we've been doing in Latin America a lot that we did last year in Palo Alto. It's the first time that we do it in San Francisco, and it was amazing. It was just a terrific event. We had 100 people, 12 hours, just building for fun. And all of that was just 1 week. And then today we were lucky enough that 2 weeks ago we met this couple. Chris is a great entrepreneur. He's the founder of Litio, and his girlfriend, Majo, who, amongst other things, she does sound healing. And we did a sound healing session at the house for some of the founders and for ourselves. And like it was a 2-hour amazing, relaxing meditation, which honestly I felt like I really needed after a week like this with so many different conversations. So yeah, I mean, all in all, a crazy week. 2 very big events and a lot of interesting fireside chats where I continue to see like the topics that we're talking about are, it's interesting to hear the different versions or visions or opinions about different people from different profiles. So for example, Bismarck on Monday was telling us about his vision about like the possibility of a future where we have a handful of really big companies. And then a lot of small companies that are very efficient with agents and that they have some revenue, but obviously like it's hard for those to become like the very big players. And then like maybe not, like very few or nothing in the middle. And it's not that he's proposing that as the way that it's the best way for the world to exist. It's more about how he thinks that with the current concentration of capital in some of the biggest companies and talent, it's going to be very hard for the middle-size incumbents to stay in that size. So they'll either have to grow to be super competitive in that space, or you'll see more of these like one person or few people, like very small teams. And then on Wednesday we heard David Wickley, who at the moment is going with that like solo experience building a company just by himself, using a lot of agents and AI at the most. So it's interesting to see someone who's practicing like that kind. And one of the ideas that I had this week through hearing some of these conversations was that I feel like one of the moats that your startup might have is being small. Because as bureaucracy grows, even like in the huge companies, I feel like even the ones that are moving really fast right now, there still will be some resistance on speed and innovation just by the sheer size of an organization. Like you cannot be founder mode doing like so many different industries and models and products and still move fast enough, especially once those things start to get like some size and complexity. So I was just wondering if like this, the question that everyone's asking, like, hey, what's a good answer for when an investor asks you what's your moat? And you're not only trying to have a good answer for investors, you're also in a way trying to have a great strategy, which is even more important. But maybe a really good strategy right now is to keep your team the smallest as possible, so that you're very efficient and very fast, and then like force yourself to use agents. Another one of the topics that I've been hearing about like on all these different conversations is just how big companies and even like big startups are in this very clear transformation with AI, where every area, every team is asking themselves like, well, how can I get advantages from incorporating more tools or automating more processes or just get more results. And definitely we see people who are like most people are investing in tokens or tools and trying to make changes. But then the question is like there's a few questions that come from that. One of that is this company actually seeing a return of investment or not? And it's super weird, because in my mind there's a chance where these companies, they go through a transformation, they invest in AI, they become more efficient, and by doing all of that, they just get to be in the same competitive level as they were before. So because everyone did the same investments, like that was just what you had to do to continue to be in business. And then if you really want to innovate, if you really want to be a super successful company and very competitive, you might have to do even more than that. And what does that more than that means? Like, is that being even more disruptive and trying to do things that are just so much different. And by that I mean, if a startup is starting AI first with a blank page, maybe instead of automating some processes and making some people more efficient, they might even think like, hey, is this like even required? Should I just use a tool like instead of having a team? One of the things that I feel like it's been kind of interesting and weird is trying to understand like how enterprises are buying some of these tools and how startups are either buying or developing, and also on the other side. So I think like there's a lot of interesting questions there. And in Release Before Ready yesterday, I remember I was talking with Carlos from Saptiva, who's doing a great job and exploring AI. And he was telling me that one of the things that is kind of funny is that every time that he comes to one of our events, he ends up like subscribing to new SaaS tools, spending more money on tokens, and he was joking, saying like, well, like I do this because I want to learn, and it makes me a better professional, and it's a great investment. But then when I heard him, I was like, well, like everyone's talking about how like SaaS is dying, but then every time that you want to build anything, like you end up like with 3 more subscriptions on something, so you might be even spending more money. So I don't know, like it's interesting. I think another great insight from this week came from David Wickley. For me, like that one really like sticked for a long time, and I'm continuing to think. So if you see the video from last week and kind of like the context of the Silicon Valley takeover, we've been asking founders to challenge themselves and either think bigger, try to find ways to improve this entrepreneurial side of doing whatever it takes to get like the results that you need, and then having willingness to change. And on the think bigger, we've been here 2 weeks. They've been very intense 2 weeks, and you see people who are doing amazing things, who are moving fast, who are raising capital, who are hiring, who are doing, just like inspiring startups. And when you look at them, you're like, oh man, like I need to, think bigger. But then like, what does that even mean? And I think like David gave us like a really nice framework to think about that. He was saying like, look, if you had like, let's say like a donut shop and you wanted to just like, do some donuts, and for that, like you need some ingredients. Let's say that you need milk, right? So if you just need 1 liter of milk, you can go to the store and buy it. But then if you need, 10 or 100, you might need to go to Costco. And then if you need like 1,000 or 10,000 or like 1,000,000 liters, that's not going to be a Costco run. That needs to start to be like you contact someone who's selling bulk milk, and they have like a distribution network, and you're negotiating price. And suddenly your job is not like physically going to the store and buying this. Like suddenly it's more negotiating a contract, even buying futures, and like understanding who are the players there. And that might even be less work in a way than every week going and buying and like having to do the manual work of this. And I feel like sometimes like on automating processes, and also as a startup founders just thinking about like thinking bigger, like we might be adding 1 or 2 zeros to whatever scale that we had in our minds, and we're like, oh well, that's bigger. But then if you're not able to change the abstraction of how you're solving the problem, you might just be stuck with like like saying like, oh, I need 1,000 liters. Let me go 1,000 times to the supermarket and buy 1,000 1 liter like milk packs, and then walk all the way back, which would make no sense. But like I do see that some of the automations that like we might be doing on like AI is something like that, where you have like a very big process, and instead of rethinking the whole process, you're just trying to optimize like 1 link of that chain. And if that's not the bottleneck, like maybe it doesn't even bring any return of investment, then maybe it was even more work just automating that and now maintaining it than what it would have been just like zoom out, look at the process, and be like, well, actually let's rethink how we're looking at this whole workflow. And if so, can I find a way to really go and get that extra 0 or 2 or 3 or 4 of scale? And that's interesting. Yeah, I think like another interesting aspect that we heard through the week, we heard it from Shiel saying like, hey, there is no moats, right? like if someone asks you like what's your moat, you say like, hey, I don't have a moat. My competitive advantages is that I'm fast and that my customers love me. But like it's really hard right now to do a moat, even more if it's like a long-lasting moat. And then I was thinking a little bit about that, because I feel like it's interesting that I feel like every time that we hear like, oh, there's no moats, we feel like that's a negative, or like it's really hard to build a moat. But in reality, if you're starting from zero, if you're starting a company, the fact that it's really hard to have a moat should actually be good news, because that means that your competitors are also experimenting that very big problem. So you can actually see these from kind of like a new perspective and be like, if there's no moats, how can I get, like the customers who are right now going to someone else to come to me? And there's two paths there. Like one, you might realize that there were actually no moats and you get customers. Or you might realize that it's actually harder than it sounds in Twitter or whatever, and that customers continue to go to their previous provider and using the previous tools that they had for different reasons. And then at least you'll learn what those moats are, and then you can try to build those in your company, right? And in your strategy. So I don't know, like I feel like we're fixated right now on this moat thing, when in reality it's just like a shifting landscape that allows us to go and try to experiment different ways of building companies and hopefully build very strong relationships with customers. I think another interesting one came from Luis, the CTO of Replit on Monday. I mean, first of all, like obviously hearing someone from your own country who went to a path and like join a company and suddenly they are growing like that, and like suddenly they have like this $9 billion valuation and he's thinking really big and he's managing a team, like obviously it's super inspiring. So like that by itself, like it's a gift to be able to have those kind of experiences. But then on the other hand, it was also liberating to hear him express a little bit of how hard it is to plan right now. And he said like this, having more than 3 months of roadmap right now might be a little bit delusional, because you don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 months, and you're moving so fast that it might just be very hard. So why don't you just shorter your time horizon to 3 months or like even less, and just work really hard on that, and then continue to iterate in that sense. And it really reminded me a little bit to like back in 2010, 2011 when I moved to the Bay Area that time. I remember Eric Ries and Lean Startup was like the whole thing about like, hey, let's stop the waterfall kind of like approach and try to do like a more iterative aspect of trying to find product market fit. And I feel like we're there again, of course, like there's nothing new. So that was also super interesting. With the chat with Christine, I think like it was just a joy to have. We've been working together for 14, 15 years, and being able to hear different stories from portfolio founders, from like the different strategies that we've done, and how those have continued to generate more impact, and just be able to share some of that path with the founders and really know where we're coming from, what we've done, and why we want to partner with each one of their companies and really build something that is long lasting. I think that more human aspect of building those relationships and being able for them who are building a strong relationship with us, like obviously the LATAM companies with me and the team in Latin America, to also hear that's pretty much the same values and ways of operating that we have in other regions and in the headquarters. It's always really nice. So that was very, very interesting. I didn't go to the Encode session, but thanks Raquel for helping us organize that. But in a way, what I heard from founders is that really hearing, like being in the place where people are working and they build something, first of all, like that's also something that adds a lot of the value of a company visit. Like it's sometimes hard for people to understand why people want to visit their office, but it's like, hey, I want to go and see where the magic is being done, and I want to see you in your kind of like space. I want to see the little details of your culture and how you work and what you prioritize and how do you build that environment where you're constantly like building. And then talking with the founder and CTO, like they were just so excited. Like it was just like, wow, like that was an amazing conversation. Yeah, I don't know, like the whole week, like I was in the sound healing session today, and I was meditating, and I was kind of like reflecting, and then I did my journaling that I do every end of the week. And I was like, I cannot believe all of this has been 1 week, and that this whole these 2 weeks have just been 2 weeks. Like I feel like I've been in San Francisco now for like a couple of months, and it's been just 2 weeks. And that really like gives me a little bit of this feeling where it's like, well, that's why we come. Obviously, we come here not to just like rest and be doing nothing. People surprisingly have been able to continue working through our schedule. So if you think about it, like we're doing like 1 or 2 sessions per day maximum. This last week is going to be a little bit more crazy because we have like there's startup grind, there's Stripe sessions, which are big conferences, and the founders are going to go and be able to like hear and meet and interact with all these other people. So I think like this week is going to be very different. We do have 2 fireside chats tomorrow, and then like the conferences, and then we go back or we finish this. But that's the other piece that has been extremely beautiful these 2 weeks, is just seeing each one of the founders and their companies, and so quickly hearing the impact. I mean, like Irving from Wise Cricket has gone through like this whole process of understanding how other people are building technology, to wanting to do it himself, getting some just ad hoc like moments of saying like, hey, like show me how you're building or help me build and understand cloud code, to yesterday in Release Before Ready spending the whole day building something, and then like at the end going and doing his demo and everything. And it's really a transformation in just 2 weeks of going from, I think, like never had done like a technology project to suddenly being able to understand how other people are doing it, try to do it himself and do it. We had another team that went through the same process, and like I see like each one of the companies and ourselves as each member of the team, like these 2 weeks have been just a journey, and there's growth, and there's like challenges, and there's moments where you're like, oh, I was thinking about this, let me now like think about this other part. For me, I feel like one of the things that I've been like puzzling a little bit about is, so I'm doing this content strategy, we're doing daily videos, we've learned a lot about how to do those. We're seeing AI change how like it's easier or harder to generate video in different ways, right? From like generating the script to you could potentially record yourself with like a AI clone, or like make a video that is just AI generated, to the editing, to even posting. But then like all of that seems to be less relevant than actually having a way for people, like for you to get people to watch it and understand the product market fit. So I've been thinking like, should we be doing a lot more content? If so, like how much AI should we use or not? And then with all of that in mind, I've been thinking like, well, probably like if you have a content strategy like that, you need a very clear like way of knowing like what you're trying to achieve with that. And like I've been gravitating around some ideas, but like one that I find very interesting is that when I look at all the AI content that it's out there, it seems to me that it's a lot about trying to help people stay up to date, which is super hard. And for people like me who are trying to be on the edge, you need that content, and it's great. And it's like, oh, this new model, has these benchmarks, and you like tips on how to use it better. But then the disadvantage of that kind of content is that it becomes stale very quickly. And on top of that, it's only relevant to the very few people in the world who really want to be on the edge. And when I look at, like some of the statistics, it seems to me like 99% of the world so far right now are still not inclined to even pay for AI. So if they are not paying for AI, I'm sure like it's not like, oh, I have some spare time. Let me open my TikTok. What I really want to see is what's happening, what new happened like yesterday on this thing, especially when it's changing so fast. But then on the other hand, like I have pure conviction. There's no question in my mind that AI is going to transform every business and the way that we operate most companies in the world, and like the life of everyone in the world is going to change in the next few years. So actually adopting and understanding AI is going to be a very important and critical thing for everyone. So I'm thinking like, how can we generate content for that other 90%, 99% of the world who might, right now not even care what the name of the model is, much less the benchmark, but understanding like the fundamentals and how it actually applies to their life, and humanizing some of those use cases and really kind of like demystifying these, instead of talking about like, hey, tokens and APIs and I don't know, like here's the CLI tool for your skill so that you can use your OpenClaw this way or that way. Maybe trying to generate some content that is a little bit like, hey, like this is what's happening. Let me show you how it works. So I've been thinking about that. I don't know, like we still have one more week here, so it's hard to kind of like experiment with a new content strategy or series or concept. But that's something that is interesting in my mind. So definitely, if you have any comments on that, would love to hear them in the comments. And yeah, I mean, like this is, I would say, a quick reflection of what was a very, very, very crazy week. I think like one extra thing that I would spend a little bit of time is that it's really beautiful when you're going through an experience like this and you see how you're, like having an impact on the companies and again also in ourselves, and you get to experiment this with people who have you met from a long time, right? So like David Weekley, we started, I don't know, like we probably met each other like 20 years ago almost. Sheil and Christine, very similar, and having a week where we can sit down and just have a chat in front of these founders who, some of them, like Memo from Auto Chilango was there, and we've been working together almost, definitely more than a decade. But there's others that we just started working like months or weeks ago, and be able to like share those values and kind of like build that kind of like that situation where everyone's trying to teach and help each other and really uplift each other. Like it's so great, and I think like that's the reason why, even after such a crazy week, and on top of that, having had my usual work, or at least the minimum version of it, so that I can like not be kicking anything to the future, and like some personal stuff, like it's Sunday, it's 5 p.m. I've finished everything I wanted to do today. I'm just gonna relax and like recharge, because I know I have a week in front of me. But honestly, like yesterday, after 12 hours in release before ready, like my body was tired, but we didn't want to leave the venue. We actually ended up staying a couple of hours there, just like the final like more energized people who didn't want to leave. But like we had a crew that was like almost like 20 people. We just sit down and like spend like 2 extra hours just like sharing stories, sharing war stories actually, like talking about success and failure of some of the people who were in the room, and sharing like interesting moments of our entrepreneurial journey. And it's just crazy, right? After like 2 hours of setup, 12 hours of hackathon, instead of just running to our rooms and kind of like trying to like just crash, we're like, oh, I don't want to leave this, because like this room, this energy, this vibe is just like so great. So yeah, I guess if you're spending 29 minutes hearing like my crazy week, you probably share that vibe. So thank you very much, and hope that you have a great week, and of course a great vibe.